The Rebel Capitalist Show.
Let's go down that path a little bit, because I see so many people that are aspiring entrepreneurs, and they're a little bit like aspiring real estate investors.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen these types of people, like at a local real estate RIA, I think they're called in the United States, with these meetups. And these people have been thinking about setting up a business or thinking about investing in real estate for like 3, 4, 5 years. And they've got all the LLCs set up, and they've got the bank account set up, and they've got a lawyer and their accountant, and they've got all these people. Yeah. And it's just, they get the paralysis of analysis, and they get all this money dropped on all these things that really at the end of the day don't even make any money or don't really matter. And they haven't even lifted up the phone to make a cold call yet.
Yeah.
And, I that's such a huge problem for people, where I have found in my own business experience that it's far better to shoot first and ask questions later, and just take action, get off the cut, do something. Don't worry about the taxes. Don't worry about, all of the LLC structures and the bank accounts. Just take action, for heaven's sakes. And I think that's what most people struggle with the most.
Yeah, the whole point of a business, and people forget this, is to return a profit to its shareholder. And if you're the founder and the CEO of that business and you started it up, the whole point of it is to make you money. And far too many people will, you see this all the time on shows like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den and stuff like that. And they'll approach investors and they'll spend money on swag before they're making a profit, before they have customers. They want branded pens and fucking notepads.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, the weirdest things. And it's like, then the investors will be like, cool. So like, how many customers do you have and how much money are you making monthly right now? It's like, well, none. I just want your money. Like, they want somebody else to take the risk financially while they run around with no experience trying to make money off that guy's money, sort of thing. And again, like in a lot of the modules that I talk about in my course, with the lectures, I specifically talk about the kinds of businesses that you can run that will make you money very early on, if not from month one, that are going to serve you a lot better. And it's going to apply skills that you have to something that's going to make you a lot more profit and give you the freedom to maneuver and do whatever it is that you want, wherever it is that you want. But again, most people, because they think conventionally and they think within the box and they color within the lines, it's like, well, I have to find an accountant, and how do I structure the business? And I incorporate it. You know what I did? Like, I'll tell you the story. The first year that I was in business, I made, I think it was $298,000, and it wasn't one year, because I started the business in February, so it was about 11 months. And I remember bringing my books and my statements to that accountant, because you have to file your taxes. And I dropped it off, and I came back, and he came out for the meeting and with a stack of paper in his hand, yelling at me, going, "What the fuck were you thinking?" And he slams it on the ground. And why did you do this? And why did you? I'm like, look, my philosophy in life is ask for forgiveness rather than permission. Right. It's only year one. Canada Revenue Agency, I'm pretty sure, doesn't want to put me out of business. And that's when he cooled his jets. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I just, I get mad when I see stuff structured like this, because he's a bean counter. Accountants, that's the way they think. And by the way, if you want a good accountant in your business, you want a guy that's going to approach it from the angle of, cool, well, now that you're making money, now that you're doing things like this, like, there's things that we need to do that are going to minimize your tax liabilities, maximize your profits, and be aligned with what it is that you want to do. You want an accountant to ask you a question like, hey, what do you like doing with your spare time? You want an accountant that's going to want to have lunch with you, that you can actually like have a conversation with beyond just what's structured in the business, so they understand who you are as a guy and how it is that you want to live your life. Like, George Gammon is a guy that lives in the States, lives in South America, likes, mobility. I'm sure that your accountant understands that and has helped you structure your business in such a way that it helps facilitate that lifestyle, right? Like, it's really important to have those conversations.
Yeah. And it's also very important to find an accountant and a lawyer that always remember that they work for you.
Yeah.
And not vice versa. Because as an aspiring entrepreneur, I guarantee you'll find accountants, most of them, and most lawyers, they're good at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it turns into this relationship where it seems like you're working for them. Mm-hmm. And you need to constantly remind them that no, it's the other way around.
Yeah. They will throw stuff at you to consume your day with nonsense. And to your point, George, you're absolutely right. Like I've had accountants, for example, try to burden me with basic bookkeeping tasks. And it's like, no, my billable rate, by the hour I value at this number, and I'm not doing it for $90. Like, let's just get a bookkeeper to push all this stuff. Like, what do you need to do? Do you have to have them come into my office? Like, how do you want to set this up? And you sort of structure it from them. But you don't want to get sucked into this vortex of doing like menial tasks that you're not world class at and that you don't enjoy. Otherwise, you're going to start, living and working in a business that you're going to start to resent.
Yeah, another mistake that I see a lot of people make, I'd like to get your feedback on, is everyone thinks that in order to make money as an entrepreneur, you have to have this brilliant idea that nobody's ever thought of before.
Yeah.
And once you get that idea, well, then you can't share it with anybody. You got to go out and get a patent and a trademark, and you got to get a logo and your business
scarcity
plan
mindset
and all of these things. And I always said, no, first of all, you don't understand that the idea isn't really what's important. It's the execution.
Correct.
It's the execution, and that takes action. And all of these things, like a logo and a brand and all, you're going to iterate. Because however long you take to figure out the perfect logo, I guarantee you after you start using it for 3 or 4 months, you'll change it.
Yeah.
Because something will be wrong. So why not just throw whatever you can up against a wall, just see what sticks, take action, like we were talking about before, but then realize that the magic is in the execution, not really the idea.
100%. It's all execution. Everybody's got a great idea. I can't, like I've lost count of the amount of emails and DMs and people that have approached me over the years. I mean, the title of my channel is Entrepreneurs in Cars. So people automatically assume that I want to invest in whatever bright idea they have. But, it's always here, I need you to look at this and then sign this NDA and do all this work. And it's like, who are you, random stranger that's trying to assign all these tasks to me? And, like, do you actually have customers and receivables? And it's always no, right? Like they want you to jump through all these hoops. Like, buddy, no, I don't work for you. Like, I'm sorry, but have fun with your idea.
Yeah.
Right?
What would you say to people that either have this vision that they aren't capable of being an entrepreneur, and maybe some people aren't? I'd love your feedback there. But then what would you say, like the 3 most important skill sets someone needs to have to be a successful entrepreneur?
Number 1 is problem solving, 100%.
Yeah.
The number 1 skill you have to be successful at running a business, doesn't matter what kind of business it is you have to be a good problem solver. And you also have to think outside of the box, because most of the solutions that you're going to have to go for are not conventionally in existence. Like you might have to mash up a couple of ideas. You might have to take it from an industry that's similar but dissimilar. You have to be very, very creative. Like those would be the 3 main points, I would say. The biggest point though really is that most of the time, anybody that's starting up a business or currently running a business is doing it completely wrong. And the biggest mistake that I've seen them do is they think way too small. Like I did a Twitter Spaces about an hour ago, and I had a few guys calling and asking questions because the course is open for enrollment and I'm taking some Q&A on it, sort of thing. Right. And it's like, I got this guy talking about copywriting, and I had another guy the other day that was talking about doing voiceover gigs on like Fiverr or whatever like that. And he was all excited about making $300 for it. And I said, well, how long would it take you to do that? And he said, well, 3 days. I'm like, you're talking about getting excited about making $100 a day, right? Like that's not entrepreneurship, right? To me, if you're not building something that has a potential to grow to over $1 million a year in annual sales, you're not running something that's going to be sellable at some point, right? Because
you're starting a job.
Yeah, you're starting a job. You're just doing something to employ yourself, which may or may not work for you, or may or may not take care of your family. But I can promise you, like you're thinking anyway. So why think about running something that's going to make you $500,000 a year when you can think about building something that's going to make you $5 million or $10 or $15 million a year? You're thinking, just think bigger, think scalability, think about building it in such a way that you can earn money while you're sleeping, right? And that's what I talk about in the course is, the mindset that the most successful entrepreneurs use to build their businesses or to pivot their existing businesses if they're not that profitable, what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest mistakes I made, Rich. The last business I had when I retired, We had about 100 employees. A lot of them were part-time. We had about 24 million in annual sales.
Mm-hmm.
And that was doing business in pretty much every English-speaking country on the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I grew the business to Australia, to Singapore, to the UK, to all of these places outside of the United States. So my point there is at 24 million, if I would have stayed in the business, sure, we might have been able to push it up to maybe 30.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much a cap on the business itself, unless you figure out some different revenue streams and whatnot that are synergistic.
And there's also the contemplation of having 100 employees versus being a company of one. There's this new business model.
So this is a great point. This is a great point. Yeah.
So there's this new business model called the company of one.
Yeah. But let me finish that one thought right there. Yeah. And I was working probably 60, 70 plus hours a week to build this business, where to your point, I could have taken that exact same time and energy and used it to build a business that was infinitely scalable. Mm-hmm. Or it could have maxed out at 100 million or 250 million. It would have been the exact same amount of time and energy.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big mistakes that I made. And that now, talking to your further point, back when we were doing this, in the day, you had to put out a lot of cash. It was a lot of time. It was a lot of energy. And there was massive amounts of risks. And then, maybe you make $1 million a year or something like that. You net out at $1 million a year. But now what's fascinating and really exciting is you can have a business online with 3 or 4, 5, 10 employees and make this. You might not make 24 million in gross, but you can make the same net with a fraction of the risk and the headache.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very, very important point, because when people structure this, they're thinking bricks and mortar, signage, like they want that neon sign flashing on the front window of their office for whatever reason. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
Signage, brick and mortars, employees, employee parties. And employees are, I hate to say this because I know a lot of people watching are probably employees watching this, but as an employer or as somebody that's going to run a business, they're not very efficient, right? Like, there's been a lot of studies done on this. And if you ask an employee, where the line in the sand is where they need to start working, they're going to set it down over here, because they'll just do as much as they feel that their compensation, covers them to. The problem is most employers, they have, there's a big gap. Most employers have an expectation that they do this much. So there's always, they think, as an employer, they should be doing this much. The employee thinks that they should be doing this much for what they're compensated for. And then there's all the other problems that come with, having employees. They call in sick. They, there's rainy days, there's snow days, they're banging each other. There's HR issues, they're complaining about stuff. You get sued. They go on leave, they get injured. Like, there's all kinds of problems that come along with it. Believe it or not, today, with the way that the marketplace is and the way the economy is, you actually don't I run a company of one. It's me and I have one contractor, right? And I'm pulling about 7 million views a month right now. I've got book sales. I've got a supplement line. I've got the podcast. I don't need much, in my life. And I love it, man. It's way better than me having all those employees and the problems that I had before. There are ways, there are ways to run employees very efficiently and effectively. And I did that too, right? Like, I've done both ends of the spectrums. Like, I got awards for company culture, and we used to give our employees like anytime days off and extra vacation time. And I get all that stuff. Like, there's ways to structure that, but I don't have to deal with any of that today. I just have to focus on what I have control of. And I can literally do this from anywhere in the world. Like, if George said to me, hey, let's get together and, chop up ideas for a couple of weeks in this country, and I wasn't a prisoner of Trudeau right now, I'm sure that's going to lift soon. I'd be on a plane and be like, yeah, let's go do it. And I could run the business from there as well too. So there's also your ability to maneuver, to incorporate yourself in different tax, jurisdictions. There might be the opportunity to get passports and live in different places in the world. Like, one of my plans long-term, George, I know we've talked about this before, is maybe I'll be on a sailboat in 8, 9, 10 years or so, dealing with Starlink, doing, what I'm doing right now from a sailboat in different parts of the world, right? Like, that would be cool too.